Hey YouTubers, I'm just going to do a quick video about trying to modify this aluminum EGR block off I bought on eBay. Basically what I'm trying to do is bore or drill out the center of this aluminum EGR block off to be slightly smaller than a 1/2 inch. Basically, that's what this GM or AC Delco, I got a light here, this little IAT sensor would press fit into a 1/2 inch hole, or literally a couple of thousandths smaller. Like when you use the digital calipers, it kind of, I don't know, depends on where you measure it. Sometimes it's actually right at a 1/2 inch or 0.500. Sometimes it's 0.496, 498, 97. So what I'm trying to do is work my way up my drill bits to slowly sneak up on a hole that I can insert this, even if I have to take, and if you see there's raised ridges on that IAT sensor. I've read online that people have to sand or remove, file those little ridges down a little bit and get a snug or press fit without breaking this plastic IAT sensor into that hole. So that's where I'm at right now. And yes, I cheated you a little bit because I started this earlier in the evening, stopped to go watch the replay of the Chiefs kicking that butt in the Super Bowl. And then I was going to sneak back out here and finish drilling this out, hopefully, and get that project going. I wanted to show you guys, I'm pretty happy ahead of schedule because I had received an email saying that my LS oil cap to -10 adapter was somewhere in St. Louis and would be delivered by end of business on Monday. Well, somehow, today must be Monday because it was in the mailbox. So now I'm wondering, was that shipping information not updated? Was it not accurate? Or did they just send me 2 of them? I don't know. We'll have to play that out and see if another one comes on Monday. But it's basically just an LS oil cap thread with O-ring that converts over to a -10 that I'll run up to my catch can with the open element. I'm gonna move the camera here in a second so I can show you the other little gift that came in the mail today. Hold up just a sec, guys. Here's a little bit better look at that oil cap to -10 adapter. These work excellent for making that transition from your valve cover up to a large, proper size catch can with the open element. I just got to looking a while ago on the video and you couldn't really see through that plastic bag. This purple blue, this is a vacuum manifold. So basically, just in case not everyone's on board with what this is, basically you have mounting tabs where you can mount this in the engine bay. Like you could mount it on your firewall, fender, anywhere. And then you run a vacuum source from your intake manifold to add vacuum to this manifold. And then it comes with various block offs, 3/8 aluminum tees, mounting hardware, all kinds of different block offs and fittings, so that anything you want to run with vacuum off your vehicle, you don't have to have hoses and tees and junk all over your intake or your engine. You have your main vacuum. But these vacuum manifolds, all you have to do is introduce your straight manifold vacuum to the block or the manifold or the distribution. Any of these ports you're not using, you just plug off with a 1/8 MPT pipe plug. But you can run, for example, you can run your blender door off of here. You could run your, your boost gauge off of here. You could run any accessory or any peripheral device that you have on your vehicle that needs a vacuum signal, you can run off of this manifold. Now, the way the truck manifold is on my application, I'm going to use that one main, I don't know what size it is, like 5/16 or whatever it is on the passenger side of the intake. I'm going to use it as a dedicated vacuum source to go to the modulator valve on my Turbo 400. Then everything else off of the vehicle that's not brakes, because you got your big hose that comes off the back of the intake to do the power brakes with a built-in one-way check valve. Then I'm going to have one vacuum line or source that goes from the manifolds directly to the fuel pressure regulator on the fuel rails. So then anything else in the car that needs a vacuum source will come from this distribution block. So once we get that all built up, I can show you better how Richard has his set up. Now, his isn't made exactly like this. It's a different brand. But basically, he uses that hard plastic push lock hose to pull vacuum out of the hole where the map sensor used to go. And then it'll run, and it'll put the vacuum source to one end of this block. And then, for an example, one of the peripheral devices I'm going to run off of it is my map sensor. You don't have to physically mount your map sensor on your intake. You can mount your map sensor on your firewall or anywhere you feel, that you want to, and run a vacuum source, because it's going to show vacuum and boost through this block to your map sensor. So, map sensor, blender door, boost gauge. There's all kinds of different options you have there. But I just wanted to kind of give you a little eyeball on this thing, because it actually came in. I actually forgot I ordered it. So I was a little bit surprised when I reached up in there and I found this. Then, of course, this wasn't supposed to be here till Monday, end of day. And lo and behold, it showed up. So I don't know. I don't run eBay, and apparently I shouldn't, because I have no clue what they're doing. Well, we made the hole a little bit bigger. Let's find out how much more we gotta go. I don't know. Biggest thing is I don't want to make the hole too big. Not quite there yet. I think I can go up one more drill bit. I don't know. I'm torn between trying the size of the hole to match those raised ribs, or trying to sand those ribs off and match it to the just .500 size of the barrel. But I almost want to leave the ribs and then hold this thing in the hole or seal it to the hole with either probably some Right Stuff RTV, because we're just wanting to basically fill that area in between the ribs and seal it to the new bore for the IAT sensor. I don't know. We'll do some thinking on it. Something I wanted to mention real quick, just in case you're ever in a situation similar to this, where you're trying to drill, let's just, for lack of a better term, use the word precision hole. Normally, the way you would do this, you would not use a benchtop drill press like this, because they don't have a very accurate run out in the chuck. But here's what I learned back when I was doing my video about drilling my own axle pattern, is a real machinist will find a drill bit that's slightly smaller than the size they want. Then they have what's called a reamers, and they'll take a reamer and finish the hole to the size they want. But because of, I'm going to call it, manufacturing tolerances of the drill bit, the wobble or run out of your, cheaper drill presses, it's really hard to get an accurate hole using the method and the tools that I'm using. But I'm just going to do my best and see what happens. You can actually see the run out if you watch. See that bit? It's not true. That's the run out in a cheap drill press. But hopefully we'll be able to get this thing done and not have a huge mess on our hands. I don't know. We shall see. Trial and error, right? Nobody's an expert until they've done it at least once. Well, it's going to have to be drilled out to that next level, because I really doubt, I'm not having a lot of confidence that even if I was to grind or sand off some of these ridges, I don't know, I'm not feeling real confident. Let's do another bit change and see what we can come up with. Okay, we pulled out the 31/64 drill bit. The next step up in my kit, or my drill bits, is the 1/2 inch. But this is where I get nervous, because I need this thing not to be, if it's going to be a 1/2 inch, that's fine, but I can't have it over a 1/2 inch, if that makes any sense. So let me get this thing locked down real quick, and we'll see if we can cut her as straight and true as we can. Alright, let's touch it. Let's do a touch off here. See how close we are. Bit's nice and sharp. Got her center pretty good. It's got that little wobble. Anytime you can get nice little curly cues, you're doing pretty good. I'm just going to run it in and out of the hole a few times. Hopefully that gets us where we need to be to get a nice snug fit on our IAT. don't know. Like I said, it's one step at a time. We just try to whittle away at it until this thing will fit in there. Ooh, it's close. You could feel the way that thing, because see, right now it's 100% the raised ribs on this IAT sensor that's keeping it from going into the bore. If those little ribs weren't on there, it would be perfect. So now I have the dilemma. Well, number one, I don't have a 1/32 step up, or I don't think I have a 1/32 or a 1/64 step up from a half. So now I got to look at possibly modifying the IAT to where it'll fit in my little hole I've been sneaking up on. So, all right, let me do some more thinking. All right, guys, just in the interest of accuracy, I got to thinking my Harbor Freight Warrior drill bits probably aren't the highest quality because they didn't have a very good run out. So I went and dug through my drill bits and found a higher quality, I can't remember if it's Milwaukee or DeWalt, 1/2" cobalt bit. And I went ahead and ran it through here, and it did take out some material. So there was a variance or a difference just in the quality of the drill bit I was using to do my final attempt at getting this hole where I want it. So now let's pull this thing out of here and see how close we are with the actual. Okay guys, I spared you the mind-numbing repetitiveness of hand filing all those raised ribs off of the IAT. If you go slow, you can get them off and not mess up the end of your temp sensor. I say that with an asterisk because I never did hit it or drop it or anything like that. So we're going to assume it still works, but it's now been trimmed of those raised ribs and will fit our drilled hole. So now we just get a little bit of RTV, slaver her up a little bit, put her in the hole. All right guys, let's see what kind of pudding we can get out of our proof here. Naturally, you know, when you've had silicone long enough that the main exit of the building is all jacked up, you just stick something in the side and get something out of it. But here's what I wanted to point out to you guys. I have painstakingly filed and sanded all of the raised ribs off of this GM or AC Delco inlet air temp sensor, and I'm going to install it into this aluminum block off plate with some silicone to seal it or glue it in the hole so it won't have any air leaks and won't pop out under boost. But here's what I wanted to point out to you guys. If you've ever seen these IAT or air inlet sensors, whether they're in the intake, what they're calling air filters, like your tube coming from your air filter box into your throttle body, you always notice the little tab that sticks out for you to snap your electrical connector on. That tab always points away from the throttle body. Here's why. If you look at this cage around the bottom of this IAT, you'll notice it's open on one side and protected on all the others. So whenever I install this IAT into this fitting, I know that it goes in the intake with the mounting bolt up, so it's going to have a teardrop down. So when I stick this IAT into this block off, I want that opening. I hope you guys can see that. I want that opening towards the incoming air And I want that little tab right there on the side, hopefully you guys can see that, towards the incoming air. So basically this thing's gonna go in just like this and get sealed. So let's see what kind of a mess we can make with our little homemade block off plug there. What I want to do is just put a little bit on this sensor, and then I'll rub it around with my finger. We should be in good shape. So I don't need a ton, but I want to have enough so it seals the hole. Highly suggest using right stuff, RTV or sealing adhesive, whatever you want to call it, because that stuff. Now I will warn you, when you go to remove it, it's going to be more work than regular cheap RTV, but it sets up faster. And if you work in the mechanics, if you work as a mechanic for a living, you'll understand why so many mechanics and so many shops use that right stuff. Now this stuff I'm using here is just a ultra black because, you know, I'm cheap and I didn't want to have to go buy a whole new container of it just for this one little project. Now here's the thing, make sure you don't have any silicone down near where you're going to be measuring your temperature. So I'm just going around it real quick. Now remember, we want our orientation, make sure we're recording here. We want our orientation with our tab towards the incoming air. Get this thing in there. Make sure we're straight here. Now that thing will stick out the other side of that, so don't just go hammering down on it while it's sitting on the table and break your sensor. But she got tight there. My friend Shane, I was telling him what I was building. It's all the way in now. But if you take a look at that, I've seated it all the way up to the flange. I left the flange. It's got the black RTV and the little air temp sensor is sticking just out of the inside of that block off, so that when I install it in that truck intake, it should be reading the temperature of that incoming air on the passenger side, just behind the plenum entrance behind the throttle body. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to let that silicone set up so we know it's sealed in there well. But my friend Shane was saying, if I was worried about this IAT being blown out of the hole, since it isn't threaded, I could make like a horseshoe, just a small horseshoe piece out of metal that would sit over this flange and have like a screw or two into this thick aluminum, and it would positively locate this IAT into this block off to where it would be impossible, I say that with an asterisk, for that to blow out under boost. So I'm still kind of looking into that idea as just a safety precaution or like an insurance plan to make sure that thing doesn't pop out of there under boost. So there it is, guys. I got it done. It took a lot longer than I expected. Hopefully it's not too ungodly boring. And I don't know. That's where we're at. That's where I'm going to be running my inlet air temperature sensor. hopefully, guys, this helps you get some ideas and helps you plan ahead so you don't end up with a nightmare of trying to figure out how to use parts that you bought that don't really go together, because everybody loves those self-inflicted headaches. So now we got that going. We got another piece of our evac system set up. Got our manifold, vacuum manifold. We're getting there, guys, one step at a time. Please like, subscribe, share, hit up the comments. I appreciate the feedback. Everybody stay safe out there.